Well, welcome everyone. My name's Tony Underwood, and you're watching Quiz the Music Man. And we talk about all things music. We get into a little more than music, we get into life, we get into a bunch of different things. Uh, and today we're going to talk a little bit about how to get the most out of music lessons. And I'm going to kind of focus on guitar because it's one of the most popular things that people take lessons for music. I own a music studio. We teach all types of instruments, music. We teach voice, piano, guitar, violin, drums, ukulele, bass, and on and on and on. Brass instruments, woodwind instruments. So it's what we do here as a career, and I've been in this field for many years, about 30. I was in church music and gave lessons, and I have a music degree from Rollins, and I was a performer, and I write and record my own music. So I'm not going to say I'm any more of an expert than anyone else, but I've seen a lot of students come and go of all shapes, sizes, ages, you name it. And all of the ones that are successful have some very similar attributes. And the ones that aren't, they have similar attributes as well. So we're going to get into this, and I don't mean to judge anybody because no matter what I say, somebody's doing something and maybe it sounds like they're doing it wrong, or if I'm telling you you shouldn't do this, believe me, I've probably done it, and I go do it again and again. It's always kind of a constant battle with that. So, having said that, let's talk a little bit about the music industry right now. It's still in flux with the COVID vaccine and or the COVID vaccine. We don't have a vaccine yet. The COVID-19 rhymes with vaccine. It's putting a lot of musicians kind of in a crazy place. I'm going to move that up and sit back a little bit because you can't really get out and do the things that right now you might like to do, like doing gigs in public and going to see people. But there is a alternate, and that's to use the resources for the new music industry, which is what we're in. And I'm going to turn this fan on a little bit. I hope it doesn't make too much noise. So the new music industry these days is all about streaming and about marketing yourself. So in the past, you would do all this stuff to market yourself to an AR person, artist and repertoire, and they would find new talent and they would book them. And it's some astronomical figure. I think it was like, maybe 200 a month they would find each of the big record companies, which there were many, many, many. Today, I think there's only three big ones. I think it's Sony, Universal, and Warner. And then there's a few other mini bigs, they call them. There's probably about 8 total. And then there's tons of independents. And in the olden times, which up until maybe 15, 20 years ago, what would happen is you would play your gigs, you might could do your own CDs, but really you were just doing demos. You would go get a really nice demo made, and you would play and you would pass that out. And hopefully somebody would see you and sign you to a record deal, and you'd go on to prosperity and become the Rolling Stones. The problem is, out of those 200 people they sign every month, and I might be wrong, it might be 200 a year, but I think it's more than that. They might have 10 to 20 acts that really make it. And a lot of acts would have one record. They'd have a deal. They'd make a song. Everything would be going great. Everybody loves them. They're telling all their folks about it and just basking in the glory. And nothing else would happen. Now, they might sell millions of that record, but there's no follow-up and they're gone. And we used to call them one-hit wonders. the first song MTV played, when they played songs, they started playing songs all the time, music videos. Was Video Killed the Radio Star by the Buggles. Now, I'm not putting shade on them, but I don't think they had any more hits. And if they did, there's tons of people that just had one hit. So how does that work into today? So today, you are a self-marketer. And if you want to become a professional musician and sell your wares and make money at it, you can do that. You have to change your thinking a little bit. What you're going to do is you're going to become self-sufficient. You're going to get a small group of people around you that can either teach you or do for you things like recording, doing videos, and doing social media. When I say doing social media, that's using a set system to engage with people on social media and become where they get to know you and get to know about you and get to care about you. And then they'll start listening to your music. And you might start getting streams and get paid for it, but you probably should go for things like getting a YouTube channel and getting streams on YouTube, getting people to watch your channel and like you. Which, by the way, I have a YouTube channel called Tony Underwood Music, and the podcast goes on there. And my music's all over Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you can stream it, it's there. I have a website, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, Tony Underwood Music. So that was just my little commercial. And but to get back to what you should be doing with social media, is having a set system where every day or every other day or however you're set up, you do a consistent, comprehensive plan. Now, there's a lot of things about that. I'll talk a little bit. I'm not an expert, and I'm still learning that, because when I first started this, you basically did the old way. You made a tape, you sent it out, you did things, and I was getting gigs and things, but my family just started. I just started my family, and I didn't want to leave them and go on the road, and you never know what you're going to get. So I transitioned into some other things, and now it's great because I can relearn all this again. It's very fascinating for me. I love learning, and I'll write a book one day on how to run a music studio as well, or how to market your music. But it'll be how to make every mistake possible running a music business. But that's the fun of it. I'm out there. I'm honestly trying. I'm just now starting to promote and do those things. Taught myself. I used to know Pro Tools. I used to work with that stuff and the big high-end stuff, but it's very brain intensive and time intensive. So I just went with GarageBand on an iPad Pro because it has the same specs and it does all the same stuff I want it to do. And if I want a little bit better recording, I'll just go to one of the studios around. It's fairly inexpensive. You can get good quality people doing that for you. But you should take some time and at least learn a rudimentary DAW, digital audio workstation it's called, and learn how to record yourself and shoot your own videos on your camera and go live and engage in Facebook and all that stuff. You can start selling merch. You can start selling concerts on Facebook. You can have a virtual tip jar where people can just give you money to support your cause or to whatever. And there's a lot of people doing that. You can look up Dawn Beyer, B-E-Y-E-R. I don't know Dawn. I never talked to her, and she might not like me promoting her, but she actually teaches how to use Facebook Lives to make music. She kind of happened upon herself. She was a musician who moved to Nashville and played in the club, not the club, but it's called on Broadway. It's called All the Tourists Go to It and Listen to You. And she realized it wasn't really a stepping stone to anything. It just was a lot of work. But I have to tell you, I think it did a lot for her. I didn't know her before, but this young lady, she can play and sing. And just go to her Facebook, Dawn Beyer, The Real Nashville, and listen to her and watch her and get into her, donate to her. She's a great, looks like a great person, and really has built herself up and worked at it. Because that's the thing, you have to work. In the olden days, a few people didn't work at all, but You know, if you get into it now, like the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, he's such a businessman. All these people, you know, even Doja Cat, all these musicians are very much business people, and you have to be one. The ones that are successful are good business people. So I would tell you to look up some of these people, get yourself involved. I'll name a few that you can just kind of look up on YouTube or the internet or Instagram. And there's Rick Barker. He was Taylor Swift's former manager, and he has a whole system of things and a lot of free videos you can watch. Graham Cochran, Recording Revolution. He does a lot of recording help. Adam Ivy is on Instagram and YouTube, and he has a lot of things about doing social media and having a music career. Burstmo, I think it's called Burstimo or Burstmo. They're a couple people who used to work in the industry, and they have different ways for you to market yourself. And I don't know which is the best for you. I've been involved with some of them and bought and paid for the stuff because they all seem like reasonably legit places. So, you know, don't be ashamed or scared to spend a little money. Michael Elsner as well, Master Music Licensing. He teaches you how to place your music in TV shows and films, can be very lucrative. So all these things can help you to do that. That's the new music industry. And in the future, I'll start taking little slices, like we'll look at Instagram and maybe look at Facebook and maybe look at how to do merch and that kind of thing. And I'm not going to say I'm a expert at it because I'm actually learning and doing, but I can definitely tell you some of the basics of what I know, and then some facilitate you to go to the real super experts. And then you have a little knowledge, so you'll know, oh, I need somebody to show me how to set this whole thing up, or oh no, I've got it set up, I need to know how to do Facebook ads specifically for this and all that stuff. And so then at least you know what questions to ask. So let's get into how to be successful at guitar lessons. And the first thing you want to do is you're going to buy an instrument. And I would say buy a decent instrument, pay $100 to $200. And there's a lot of different kinds. This is I'm holding it up for the video, but other people can't see it. This is an acoustic. It just looks like the traditional guitar, has a sound hole in front. This one has steel strings. And then there's a guitar kind of like this. It's hollow on the inside. It's made out of wood. It's like James Taylor would play, or if Ed Sheeran is doing acoustic, you'll see that. They have this one with nylon strings, which the softer strings, it's a classic. For your finger pick, this is wildly out of tune, but anyway, I was just kind of letting you guys see what it looks like. That's an acoustic, and the classical is a little different style of the body too. You can't always put the different strings on the different ones. Then you have this, which is a solid body. This is an SG style. This is an Epi, but it's a Gibson SG, and it doesn't make a lot of noise unplugged. You actually plug it in there to an amplifier with a cord and make all those weird, crazy sounds, which we all love so well. Now this is a whole different thing. This is an Ovation, and its claim to fame is to have a round back, like the old, the first guitar type things were called vihuelas, and the back was a little bit bigger. This is a thin back, round back. It's hollow. It has the funky sound holes up here, and also can plug in like an electric. So there are a lot of decent name brands, and you don't have to spend more than $100 or $150 to get one. I would recommend, if you're doing acoustic or classical, to get a little foot stand. That goes under your right or left foot, and then your foot's up a little, your thigh is up a little bit, your knee, so you can lay the crook of the guitar in it, however that works. Then a guitar stand, which is just a little thing on the floor or whatever that you can just stand the guitar on. A music stand, which you know what a music stand is, hopefully. They have the little portable ones that are very inexpensive. And then if you want a case, you don't really need a case. I would suggest just getting a gig bag, which is usually cloth or some type of fabric. It's soft. It might have foam in it to kind of give it some impact protection. But guitars, unless you sit on it and stuff, they're okay. And you don't want to ever leave them in your car anyway. And you're only usually going to carry it from your house to the music lesson place. So you don't really need that. The gig bag's fine. And then a book. And maybe a capo. This is a capo. This kind of goes on the top of the guitar. And what it does is changes the key. So if you know a chord progression, if I do, you can put this on the different frets. And now if you'll listen, it's so that goes up, So once you know that one chord progression, you can do many different things. That's about all you need. You'll need a pick sometimes, which is just something to pluck the strings. There's all different kinds. I would get a medium one that's kind of flimsy but not too flimsy. You can get a strap. I use a strap on this because I stand up a lot of times, and it's a round back, and it's hard for that to sit on it. But usually I don't suggest it because learning to hold the guitar is the important thing. So, having said that, I'm going to use a strap. But anyway, how do you get ahead? And the simple fact is, it's something you already know. It's practice. However, with to pay homage to Allen Iverson, we're talking about practice. Most people don't know what practice is. It hasn't been explained to them. Most instructors don't seem to know because they don't have a clear explanation. And I've had people come in and want to play, a song that just has chord progressions maybe, or a little small part where you pick out the melody, and they'll say, "Oh, I've always wanted to learn this, and I took guitar when I was younger," and they may have taken guitar or piano. Can be the same thing for, 2-3 years. At that point, you can read the notes and all, and say, "I've just, been trying for last 20 years, and I can't ever get this." Most songs, once you have been playing guitar for, I would say, a year, most songs shouldn't take more than 2 or 3 months at the most to really learn it. And there's a reason that people don't get that. And so I'm going to do a very simple thing here and show you. I'm fixing to learn you. So this is Ode to Joy. It's probably backwards on this, so I'm sorry about that. It's a fairly simple piece, and I'm just going to pick it with my fingers. I'm not going to make a big deal. So if we were going to learn this piece, which has 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 16 measures, and it's probably about a 30-second to a minute song. Here's how people would learn this. They'd go first note, second note, third note, fourth note, fifth note, 6, and on. Oh, make a mistake. Back to the beginning. Oh, mistake. Back to the beginning. So I'm kind of making fun of people, but not too much because I've done that too. So what does that mean? Why do we start going back to the beginning? Because we really don't understand how our bodies and minds and muscles will learn. You do not go back to the beginning. You look through the music and you look at what would be the most difficult part and you start there. Now most of these beginner pieces are similar, they're consistent. So you can start at the beginning, and I would start with this first measure. I would just pick a small group of notes, a measure or one or two notes. Now these two are the same notes, so if I was going to pick the smallest amount, I would pick these three notes because this one moves to a different note. That's an E and an E and then an F. But you can do E, E, F, G, and in fact, that's what you would do. You would say the letter, figure it out. There's ways of figuring that out. You have a system. Go to your system. You know, what clef are we in? Treble clef. Is this a line or a space? It's a space. We have a memory device for spaces. It spells out the word face, starting from the bottom, F-A-C-E. So I'm going to start at the bottom. Space is F, the second space is A, the third is C, the last one is E. That is an E. How do I play an E? If I don't remember, it's here. Notes on the first string, E. It shows me the E, and it shows me how to play it. That's open on the first string. So I would play open in the first string, and I know the second note's the same. The next note I know is an F. It's on a line. If I needed to, I could figure it out if I had to. Is it on a line or space? It's a line. What's our memory device for lines? Every good boy does fine, starting from the bottom. It's on the fifth line. Every good boy does fine. F, it's an F. How do I play an F on the top line? It's the first string, first fret. Put that there, pluck. So now I have three notes. The last note is a G. I know what that is. Okay. Now here's what I would do. I would look, I'm looking at the wrong place. I would look right at the music, which imagine I'm looking at the music. I would say the notes to myself and I would play that first measure. E, E, F, G, E, E, F, G, E, E, F, G. If I need to look down, now I could look down because I know it's E, E, F, G. Open, open, 1, 3. E, E, F, G, E, E, F, G, E, E, F, G. Now that might sound stupid. I might play it 100, 200 times. And you know how much time that would take? Yeah, maybe 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. The thing is, once you learn that measure that way, man, you know it. And you're learning a skill. So the more you do that, the more that skill is going to progress to where you can learn faster and faster. And here's the other thing about music. You can't probably see this, but this first measure, where you can see it, you need to look and see what other measure looks exactly like it. In fact, this one here does. This one here does. Oh, no, I'm sorry, this one doesn't. I'm looking at it backwards. This one does. So that's three. 3 measures out of 1. There's only 16 measures in this piece. So I learned 1 measure and I know 3. And in fact, the first 3 measures of this are repeated twice. That's 9 measures out of 16. So maybe you'll only learn 1 measure a day, and you practice 3 times a week. You know 3 measures. You know 9 out of 16. I mean, that's pretty good. And you don't have to learn 1 every practice session. It might take you a week. Well, 3 weeks later, you know almost a song. And a couple more weeks, a month, you know this whole song. Now, the key to that is consistency. So every week, you should plan on several days of short practice sessions, doing that same thing, saying the notes, playing them. Because I submit, I have watched young and old, and they simply won't do that. They'll just start going through, and they never get better because your mind doesn't have a chance for it to set enough to where later while you're sleeping, while you're resting, the mind body, it makes those connections, the muscles that need to happen. It becomes part of a habit. And then suddenly, in a couple rehearsals, you'll be playing it like crazy. In piano, I have people just grab a handful of notes and play. If I wanted to play these notes, let's see what we got here. We're not doing too well here. Let's see. Give me a second. Okay. I don't know what those notes are, but let's see. I would put my fingers on these notes, hold them down, I would play them all at once. And then play them in the rhythm. And let's say these are all going to be on the beat. And then I would get the order. So it's in that same, and then I would play. Now you might go back to two notes. Here's the first two notes. Here's notes 2 to 3. Here's 3 to 4. And then go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. "100 times, 200 times. When this hand gets tired, I would find a passage in the left hand and work the left hand. Go through the whole piece like that. The Beethoven piece for Elise, it's a fairly complex piece. Depending on the arrangement, it's a repertoire. People play that. Doesn't tax them that much, but it's technically has a lot of stuff going on. But it's very simple once you break it down, because the beginning. The first maybe 8 or 10 measures repeats 6 or 7 times in the whole piece. So you've got, you learn those first 8 to 10 measures, and now you know 50 measures of a piece that's got 120 measures in it, and so forth. And the others that you learn are repeated. So, let me share with you, music is not easy. It's, I've been in business and construction, was very good at school. I love math and physics and science. I just excelled at those. It was not really a big problem for me. I didn't study very much. Music's tough. I had to study for music all the time. And now you don't all have to do that, but it's not going to be worth anything if people think, a couple of weeks I'm playing a song. No. It might take you 3 to 6 months to just learn some basics. It might take you a year or two to really get to where you're playing a song or two. Then you can always play little bitty songs and things to keep you going. And we have other things like chords to kind of help you through that period. But, my response to people thinking that's a long time is to say, well, what were you doing a year ago? I mean, if you're splitting the atom, if you're doing cold fusion, and you got that COVID-19 vaccine all figured out, more power to you. But most of you, were, for 6 months, you've been sitting in front of Netflix eating Cheetos. So time flies, time passes, and you just stick with it. You don't worry about how good you are. Stick with it, take your time, and you'll be amazed at how quickly you'll start gaining confidence, and you learn how to learn. So that actual technique of playing these notes over and over again, you'll get to where maybe you only have to do it 20 to 50 times, which that's a minute or two. So if you practice for 20 minutes, man, you can learn 10 to 15 measures in a setting, times 3 a week. That's almost a piece a week. You can kind of learn a lot of it, and in a month have it really down. So then you can continue to practice it. You need to practice something 3 to 4 months to really get it down. Now, as a student, you don't have to. You can learn things week to week. But, to pay a performance, it's a big performance, you're going to want 3 months. And 6 months isn't a big deal, because if you have a bunch of songs in the pipeline, like 5 or 10 songs, you get to that point, then you're always working on a song. It's not boring, it's something new. And then, you'll get one done, you'll bring another one in, you rotate those. And pretty soon you'll be playing all kind of stuff, and then you'll learn chords and sing along and adding chords with melody and just on and on and on. So you're playing, themes to Fortnite and all that stuff. So that's kind of how to get the most out of lessons. That's the key. You listen to your instructor, you go do your book, you just plug away at it a few times a week, 15, 20 minutes. Now, listen, if you really want to excel, you got to do 30 minutes to an hour every day. And that's kind of tough, but at least that every other day. Now, not doing that, you can still, as a recreational player, start doing that, and within 6 months and a year, you're going to be playing songs. A couple times a week, 15, 20 minutes, maybe an hour of rehearsal once a month or two in there. But it has to be small bits. I mean, you're going to saw down an oak tree. You're not going to take a hatchet and just try to 3 swipes like Paul Bunyan. Google him. You're going to take a saw or something, a chainsaw, and if you look, the chainsaw makes sawdust, the tiniest of bits, over and over and over again. So that's what you do. You do this over and over and over again, tiny little bits. And when you're through learning it, you'll have it memorized automatically. And you'll never forget, because you know these things like a phone number or like your relatives' names. If I shouted out a bunch of letters, you would be lost repeating them to me. But if I called out 10 of your relatives' names, you could probably get those pretty easy. So that's kind of what this does. So I'm going to wrap it up, because I think that's a lot to talk about. I think I'm going to talk about it more in my next podcast. So this is Tony Underwood Music, Quiz the Music Man, how to get the most out of lessons. We'll talk a little more about shopping for instruments and things as well. I'm trying to get these around 20 to 30 minutes. I don't want them to get too long, because I bore myself, and I know you're bored. So I'll probably do something like this, and then later do little bits of this. But take your little bits at a time. Find my music on Spotify and play it for yourself, for your grandma, for your pets, for your plants, anything. I hope you enjoy it. Shoot me some comments. I'd love to hear just how your life's going, and love to have you subscribe to the podcast and share that with people. And look me up on social media and so forth, and let me know how you're doing. So we'll see you next time on it. Quiz the Music Man. Have a great week. Bye-bye.